Donald Trump just continues to suffer major legal blow after major legal blow, and yesterday, was no exception. Except for this time, the legal blow that Donald Trump suffered was permanent, because it came from the United States Supreme Court itself, which rejected Donald Trump's claim of executive privilege over the documents, communications, White House logs, everything that the January 6th committee is trying to get their hands on. And for the record, pretty much everything that the January 6th committee already has their hands on. So how can that be, right? Because a lot of people, when this story came out yesterday, were confused. Like, wait a minute, I thought the committee already had everything, so why is the Supreme Court even... Here's what happened. Obviously, as we all know, a month ago, the National Archives gave everything over to the January 6th committee. They were able to do that because even though Donald Trump had appealed his legal loss, that of course allowed the National Archives to hand everything over, the Supreme Court at the time refused to issue a stay pending appeal, which means the National Archives did in fact have to turn things over, but the appeal process was still ongoing, which probably would have been a little weird had the Supreme Court come back yesterday and said, okay, you do have executive privilege. January 6th committee, go ahead and give everything back because you can't have it. Of course, that didn't happen. But again, why didn't you just go ahead and basically issue this ruling, which was an unsigned ruling, but still official and permanent? Why didn't you just do it back then, right? Because you knew you weren't going to give them the documents and then say, okay, now you got to hand everything back. Like, no, they already had them. It was already a part of the investigation. A lot of them, been made public. We know what was there. So you can't exactly say, oopsies, we're doing take-backsies. Totally doesn't work out like that. But either way, it's done. With this ruling, the Supreme Court has effectively said, Donald Trump, former president of the United States, you do not have the authority to claim executive privilege at all. Which means a lot for everything that's not the January 6th investigation. Obviously, Donald Trump, since he left office, has been trying to claim executive privilege on a whole host of matters, right? Not just the January 6th investigation. He has tried to claim executive privilege to a degree with the investigations in New York. He has tried to claim executive privilege from the lawsuits in Washington, D.C., of which there are multiple. And the Supreme Court says you can't. No. Now, I don't know specifically if this ruling will be applied to those other cases, but the fact that they have now officially said, even in an unsigned ruling, you can't claim executive privilege. If he tries to do it in the future and appeals it to the Supreme Court, it's unlikely that the result is going to be any different. So yes, of course, it absolutely does impact all of those other instances. And of course, this comes on the heels of Judge Mehta in Washington, D.C., telling Donald Trump that no, you can't escape the lawsuit seeking to tie you to inciting of the insurrection that took place, which that ruling took place on the heels of the court ruling last week, where the judges said that no, you can't escape the prosecutors in New York. You have to sit down for depositions. And of course, that court ruling came 2 days after the other court ruling last week that enjoined the Trump Organization back into the lawsuit over the possible misuse of the Trump inaugural campaign funds. So that's basically 4 major court rulings in the last 7 days that all go against Donald Trump and his kids and his business, and all in a very bad way. 4 rulings, 7 days, might be one of the worst post-presidential weeks that Donald Trump has had so far, but if all these investigations and lawsuits go according to the plaintiffs and the prosecutors, Donald Trump's in for a lot more very bad weeks in the near future. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel. We also encourage you to like, comment, and share, but again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.